Welcome all the donors, supporters, and friends of the Illumination Project. I'm Peter Somsich. I'm the chairman of the Illumination Committee, which is part of the Memorial Bridge Project Public Advisory Committee. And we're happy to have you here today. This afternoon, our committee wants to take this opportunity to thank formally all of the donors that have given their time, their money, and various types of support to making this illumination project on our new Memorial Bridge happen. At the end of the ceremony, we will exit from this facility, and my colleague on the committee, Ben Porter, will guide you outside. And at that point, we will initiate the turning on of the memorial plaque illumination and the bridge illumination as well. And of course, we invite you then to take a walk across the bridge if you wish. One of them was the electrical contractor on the bridge, Bob Goulet. Where's Bob? Bob did a lot of work in making suggestions and improvements to installing the lighting. Some of you may recall, and this is incidentally all in the flyer, we have written our own history because we figured it's better to write our history ourselves than let someone else do it. It's in the flyer, and part of the problem we first ran into was we had some issues with whether or not our illumination was going to be dark sky compliant, meaning too much wasted light going in the wrong place, which would affect habitat and so forth. We redesigned a lot of things on our project to make them dark sky compliant, to such a degree that we even got a citation from the Dark Sky Association for our bridge project. Unfortunately, it added about $60,000 to the cost of the project. But Bob, during the course of all these changes and ideas, including the installation of the lighting itself, was always a big help. And we know he was out there in bad weather. He and his guys were out there in bad weather doing the hard work. Dennis Schweitzer, is Dennis here somewhere? He's not here. Dennis works for Keith, I think, right? Is that right, Keith? He works for you? Dennis was the person who was mainly involved with the back and forth with us, and he was helping to translate our language into that of the contractors and the bureaucrats, and telling us what we should and should not do or say in order to make this happen. And we greatly appreciate Dennis's constant persistence and patience, both with us and with everyone else involved. It would not have happened without Dennis being our person to go to. So thank you, Dennis. Jerry Milroy, the Kittery town planner, was kind of a silent partner with us, but anytime we needed something to be organized in Kittery, like a public event, or we needed to have something go before the Kittery Town Council, which we tried to avoid, Jerry was the person to mediate the situation and help us with that. So we appreciated Jerry's contributions to our committee. And finally, I'd like to mention Jennifer Zorn, who is actually the project outreach coordinator for the whole project. And she was always willing to, see, where's Jennifer?
Here, Peter.
Anytime she felt that she could be useful, she volunteered for us to help with the media or with getting the word out. So thank you so much, Jennifer. Now, a lot of organizations were also involved in supporting us in various ways. And they included, obviously, the state of New Hampshire, with the various personnel we already mentioned, but we also had as our local community partner Portsmouth Historical Society. So I think Mary Ellen Burke is here somewhere.
Over here.
Portsmouth Historical Society was, because they were our community partner, we were able to make the donations to our effort tax deductible, which a lot of people required and wanted. And they were willing to be our vehicle to do that, so that made our life much easier than it would have been otherwise. Since you may not know, but we're actually not a legal entity in any way. We just kind of spurred up as a weed somewhere. I already mentioned Keith Cotto from the Department of Transportation, and I think one of the things that really impressed us in the beginning was when we started the project and we had everyone thought, this sounds a little weird, why would you illuminate a bridge? Bridges don't need to be illuminated. And then the second thought was, well, we don't want the bridge to look like a Christmas tree. But since our group, on our own effort, hired John Powell to come up with a bare bones design, once they saw the kind of ideas we were thinking of for this bridge, Keith and others at the DOT were pretty excited about it and wanted to help us get this done. So we greatly needed and appreciated their help to do this. Finally, David Allen of the City of Portsmouth and the City of Portsmouth in general, that decided that, since our group was not a legal entity and the state and the federal government has to deal with some type of municipality, the City of Portsmouth stepped forward and said, we will be your municipal partner in this so that we can facilitate the money going to this project. And without that, that too would have been difficult to do. So thank you again for David. And David's, where is David? David Allen, thanks a lot. Now I'd like to ask the individual members of the Illumination Committee if they'd like to come up and say a couple words about the kind of efforts that they did on this project or why they got involved. So, Tom, you want to get up and say a couple words?
I just want to thank you to all the supporters in this room. And one of the things about fundraising is, gosh, you love it when someone that sees what you see in a project. And there's one contributor in this room that really helped me and introduced me to other people. And I'd just like to say especially thanks, Jude Blake. Thank you very much.
So, John DeJuzo, would you like to say something?
I worked a lot with the local media, and I just want to thank Jennifer particularly for helping with that, but also the fact that the media generally reported the story and got it right, even though they spelt my name wrong a lot of times. That's okay. And also, it's just a great tribute to all of you, because all of you who pledged actually wrote a check, and we really do appreciate that. So thank you.
Would you like to come up and say something? Okay. Well, I want to say to recognize Gail that she was the person working with the Portsmouth Historical Society to pay the bills, to make sure that when everything came in that needed to be attended on financially, that would be done. And we appreciate all the hard work you did. Thank you, Gail. Rose, would you like to get up and say something?
I'd like to thank all of our donors. Whenever we hit a stumbling block, and there were more than a few, it was your enthusiasm that allowed all this to be possible and kept us going. And thanks a lot.
Bruce, would you like to say something?
Good afternoon. I too would just like to thank all of the donors and also the representatives of the Departments of Transportation, in particular of New Hampshire DOT, for all of the efforts. This project was not easy, most importantly I think because it really hadn't been done, or something on this scale hadn't been done before. And it just shows what can happen when a community has a shared vision and decides that they really want to get something done. And as a side note, other communities around the United States have taken notice of this, and we'll probably be seeing more of these private-public partnerships in the future due to these efforts. So thank you one and all for your support.
Bob, would you like to come up and say? Yeah, Bob is, those of you who know Bob or who've known him for a long time, you might remember that he was the Portsmouth city planner many years ago. So a lot of the things that look nice on Market Square, we can thank Bob for, and it was great to have him on our committee with his historical perspective and also the people he knew to help us when we needed something to be helped with. Ben Porter?
Again, thanks to all the people who've been so generous in their donations for this project. I can't tell you how much I personally appreciate it. My involvement with the bridge has gone on for quite some time, and this is just a continuation of that process. I just want to go back and say a couple extra words about Portsmouth Historical Society, because they've been involved in the whole process of the work that we did to even have a memorial bridge, and they had a very critical role in making sure that we even have a bridge to light. So again, another shout out to Mary Ellen and to Richard Candy in particular. Dennis Schweitzer, who is the construction project manager for the New Hampshire DOT, was absolutely fabulous in facilitating all of the process of actually getting the lighting installed on the bridge. It was a much more complex process than I think any of us ever imagined. And finally, back to Bob Goulet, who is an absolute wizard. Anytime Bob became known on the bridge as, I've got a better idea. And every time we ran into a problem, we turned to Bob, and Bob, in fact, had a better idea. So where we are today, we couldn't have done it without his fabulous work. So thanks again. Peter, you're going to take off? Okay.
Let me just
Just wanted to add a couple things that you'll find in the flyer, but I want to highlight them. Our collaboration with the DOT had other benefits besides just getting the illumination project. One of the first things that happened is once we had our bare bones proposal from John Powell and everyone got excited about that, we started talking about lighting in general and LED lighting specifically. And we mentioned to the DOT that maybe they should reconsider putting old-fashioned metal arc street lights on that bridge. And it was a long discussion, but lo and behold, they finally decided that going from a 150-watt metal arc lamp to a 50-watt LED, which is a dramatic cut of 2/3 energy and 2/3 greenhouse gas emissions and lower maintenance costs, was a great idea. So those lights, those street lights on that bridge right now are LED street lights, and each one of them are only 50 watts, and that was part of the outcome of our collaboration with them. The other thing that we had a lot of support for is the plaque that we created. We had such great support from the vendor in Maine that was providing us with this great plaque that I'll put out there. Also, just to mention the street lighting issue, I'm going to put out there at the table too an image. One side is the image of what Ben saw on the old bridge in street lighting and light pollution, and the new version of it, what's on the bridge now, and it's a dramatic difference. And finally, I'd like to just say that, as I mentioned before, we broke a lot of new ground bureaucratically and otherwise, but I think one of the things we're most proud of is that we started this project saying we don't really know if we're going to raise enough money. And we told John, if we don't raise enough money in pledges, we can't pay you for any of your services. We can't pay for any of the project, because all we have is pledges. And if there are not enough pledges that come in, the project is not viable. It's one thing to say I'm excited about illuminating the bridge, but if no one's willing to pay for it, it's just not going to happen. And John was willing to go along with that, even at the risk that he might not get paid for his work. He went out there and several public events to preach the gospel of this illumination project. And lo and behold, we got enough pledges. And what's even more incredible is that of all the pledges we received, 100% of them came back with actual cash. Thank you very much. So I'm going to exit at this point and head over to the bridge to get ready for turning on the lights. And I'm going to turn the proceedings over to Ben Porter for the rest of the evening. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Peter. And while he's running out and braving the weather and getting over to the point where we've got control over the actual lighting, I'd like to introduce Richard Brooks, who's the president of the Veterans Council, who has a few words to say about the relighting of the memorial plaque.
Well, originally I told Peter I was going to be brief, but I feel like talking tonight. No, I'm only kidding. It's an honor to be on this committee, working with the whole project. One of the reasons I is the original bridge was dedicated to the military personnel that served in World War I and died in the Great War, or the war that was supposed to end all wars. Unfortunately, we know that hasn't happened. We're still involved in conflicts today, and we have personnel all over the world keeping us free. I do have a few facts here. I have my with me, and I have my chauffeur, my genealogist, and my research assistant, my wife Sheila, right here. One of the things she found is something I thought I'd read. It's called the Memorial Bridge in honor of the soldiers who died in what was then called the Great War. Plans for the new bridge in 1919 shared front page headlines with the demise of hostilities with Germany. The building of the bridge connecting downtown Portsmouth and Kittery would change everything. As an engineering feat, it was amazing enough. The footings of the bridge are sunk as much as 82 feet into the bedrock below the river. 6,000 tons of sand and 14,000 barrels of cement were used to pin the steel footings in place. The three spans are each 300 feet. In the original bridge, two concrete counterweights balanced 1 million tons of road, pulled up and down by 64 cables in just a couple of minutes. In a busy day, the road might make 20 trips in an 8-hour shift. I want to thank a few people here. One in particular, Jay-Z, or Jennifer Zorn, who invited me on the committee because it was originally a Veterans Memorial, and I wanted to be involved. I want to thank everybody from the Illumination Committee, and all those others that are involved in the whole thing. The bridge is quite an engineering feat. Oh, and the Portsmouth Athenaeum for finding information for me on the history. She's also my coach sometimes. But anyway, thank everybody, all the donors, especially Jim Teasel, who provided money for the new memorial art we have over here. It's beautiful. Have a dedication ceremony for that. It's coming sometime. Thank you.
Thank you, Brooksy. Appreciate that. Early in the process of the Illumination Committee, we decided that we needed somebody with professional experience to assist us in the design of the lighting of the bridge. After consultation, after review of several proposals, we selected John Powell from Boston to do the design, and I'd like to ask John to come up and say a few words.
Thank you, Ben. I got a phone call from Peter Somsich about 2.5 years ago, and Peter basically said, well, we have a bridge that's not built, and you can see the bridge we're tearing down. and we don't have any money, but we really like what we've seen you do in the past, and we're wondering if you'd be interested in doing something for the bridge that doesn't exist. So, I met with the committee, with Rose and Ben and whatnot, and we came up with a concept, and then it was sort of off and running from there. And without Dennis Schweitzer and Bob Goulet, there wouldn't be a lit bridge, because just getting the lights was probably the smallest part. The largest part was getting them on the bridge, so they painted the bridge in light and color. The next step is getting the city of Portsmouth to be able to operate the bridge, operate the lights on the bridge. And right now we have 16 programs, or 16 separate scenes in a single program that are on the computer on the bridge. And tonight we'll go through 3 or 4 of them. But within a few days, we'll have all 16 scenes up and running on the bridge, starting at dusk and running until 2 a.m. And I just want to thank you all for giving me the opportunity to do this project. And it's really been a pleasure and a real challenge. Thank you.
Again, thanks to everybody for coming. Now we get a chance to see the fruits of our labor.